Are we live? Somebody tell me if we're live. Are we live? Here we go again. just, you gotta trust that there's gonna be some technical difficulty. Okay, we're finally live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Wolf of Young Street podcast. We're live on a Sunday again, and today I want to talk about the this ad that the Ontario government put out that's gotten Doug Ford losing. No, that's gotten Justin. I say Justin Trudeau. That's gotten Donald Trump losing his mind, flipping out on Canada right now. He calls it fake. I want to talk about this today. We're also going to talk about Pierre Poilievre and whether he's ready for an election, because there is a real chance that we could be going to an election. And is Pierre Poilievre ready for an election? Is he ready to go one on one with Carney again? Is there a chance that if an election comes out of this whole budget situation, because as I'm hearing, it doesn't seem like Makani has the required support to pass this budget from opposition parties. Obviously, Makani is in a minority government. It doesn't seem like he has the votes to pass that budget right now. People are looking at that deficit. They're looking at some of the spending, and some of the parties are not really. I mean, some of the parties, barring the NDP, are not really in support of this particular budget. So it's possible. It's very possible that come November 4th, we could be looking at a situation where that budget doesn't pass. Although, if I was giving you my opinion, I think it will pass. But we'll get into that again as well in today's live show. Who's with me? Who's live with me now? Just you guys get in the chat. I want to make sure everything is technically, perfect for you guys. Shoot me a hello. Give me a hello or something in the chat. Let me know if you hear me. So today, I thought I'd start with not the ads that Doug Ford actually posted, or that Doug Ford actually bought. What I want to start with, I want to show you guys the original Ronald Reagan uh, uh, broadcast that was. Okay, Lady Genuine says hello. Hello to you, lady. Okay, so what we're going to start with, I want to start with what Ronald Reagan originally said, because Donald Trump has come out and said that this particular broadcast is fake, right? He has said the particular ad is fake, that Ronald Reagan would never criticize tariffs because, tariff is his favorite word. And many of you might know that Ronald Reagan happens to be an idol for Donald Trump. He has told people that Ronald Reagan loves tariffs, and so those Reagan Republicans are looking at those tariffs and feeling like, if Reagan loved tariffs, if tariffs were good enough for Reagan and they're good enough for Trump, then they're good enough for me. So I'm going to play you, and that's where we'll start the show today. I'm going to play you what Ronald Reagan actually said. So here goes. Let's see if this works today. If you guys can see my screen, just give me a thumbs up or something. I'm trying to share this with you, and then I will play this. I want to make sure that you guys can hear it, so I might mute myself as well, so you're not hearing me like 5 or 6 times. You guys see that? Just pop in the chat. Tell me you can see that. You guys see that? Ew. Okay. I think it's up there. Now, what I want to test now is the sound. Make sure you can hear the sound, so it's not just me here. Okay. So, gonna mute. I'm gonna mute myself. All right.
They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technology. My fellow Americans, Prime Minister Nakasone of Japan will be visiting me here at the White House next week. It's an important visit because while I expect to take up our relations with our good friend Japan, which overall remain excellent, recent disagreements between our two countries on the issue of trade will also be high on our agenda. As perhaps you've heard, last week I placed new duties on some Japanese products in response to Japan's inability to enforce their trade agreement with us on electronic devices called semiconductors. Now, imposing such tariffs or trade barriers and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take, and in a moment I'll mention the sound economic reasons for this, that over the long run such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. But the Japanese semiconductors were a special case. We had clear evidence that Japanese companies were engaging in unfair trade practices that violated an agreement between Japan and the United States. We expect our trading partners to live up to their agreements. As I've often said, our commitment to free trade is also a commitment to fair trade. But you know, in imposing these tariffs, we were just trying to deal with a particular problem, not begin a trade war. So next week, I'll be giving Prime Minister Nakasone this same message. We want to continue to work cooperatively on trade problems and want very much to lift these trade restrictions as soon as evidence permits. We want to do this because we feel both Japan and the United States have an obligation to promote the prosperity and economic development that only free trade can bring. Now, that message of free trade is one I conveyed to Canada's leaders a few weeks ago, and it was warmly received there. Indeed, throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. Well, I've never forgotten those jobs, and on trade issues, by and large, we've done well. In certain select cases, like the Japanese semiconductors, we've taken steps to stop unfair practices against American products, but we've still maintained our basic long-term commitment to free trade and economic growth. So, with my meeting with Prime Minister Nakasone and the Venice Economic Summit coming up, it's terribly important not to restrict the President's options in such trade dealings with foreign governments. Unfortunately, some in the Congress are trying to do exactly that. I'll keep you informed on this dangerous legislation because it's just another form of protectionism, and I may need your help to stop it. Remember, America's jobs and growth are at stake. Until next week, thanks for listening and God bless you.
Okay. So that was Ronald Reagan, former president of the United States. So that was Ronald Reagan, former president of the United States. I'm just going to catch up on you guys' comments now. Uh, Pat Dodds says Alberta independence. Canada is done. Doug Ford needed Canada. It's over 10%. And Kuzma gone. Canada is done. Whoa, words there from Pat. Doug Ford needs to go miss. Whoa, let's not say that now. You're gonna get the cops to come calling, bro. Lady Genuine says to answer the question about Doug Ford. Yeah, and that is the question I want you guys to answer in this first half hour of the show here. Was Doug Ford wrong to to put this ad out? Obviously, I'm going to tell you guys what I think later, but I want to hear from you guys because I never want to bias you. I want you to, but I want some logic from you as well, right? Don't just say he was wrong. I also want to hear some logic or like put something in the chat, maybe something that'll help me. Genuine sounds like, oh, genuine. Okay, okay, cool. I got your name there. So Lady Genuine says to answer the question about Doug Ford being wrong. Yes, I believe he was. We could have used the $75 million to help with the workers who lost their job in the auto industry. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Lady Genuine also pops in. I wonder if the Jays would have won last night if the ad wasn't aired. Nah, I don't think I'll go that far, Lady Lady Genuine. I don't think I'll go that far just because the LA Dodgers are actually a really good team. They are a good team. I don't know if you saw their final of their conference final. You can tell I'm not really a baseball fan, but in their particular final, I think they swept the other team. So the Jays are really the underdogs coming into that game. So I wasn't surprised that the Dodgers took one game off them. In fact, the Dodgers will do very well to go on and win that. In fact, I would be ecstatic, I would be over the moon because I want any Canadian team to absolutely do a proper beating on the Americans. I've been disappointed the last few years with the Edmonton Oilers. Anyways, Lady Genuine says, I wonder if the J. Okay, that one. I already got that one. Reagan wasn't a fan of tariffs, but he knew they were necessary. And that's a good point. Because Reagan, while he did not like tariffs, he did apply tariffs as necessary. And in some regard, I guess you could say his position is not it's different from Trump's in the sense that Trump is applying them, but the thing with Trump is everybody's assuming that he means to keep them on forever or something, and that he is applying the tariffs without any form of strategy. And sure, I think Trump likes to make it seem like there is no strategy inherently in there because of the way he kind of like is all over the place. But I think that I would imagine that there is something behind why he put those tariffs there. Whether that logic turns out to be correct or not, no, that's a different discussion, right? Um, Okay, so Braveheart says Doug Ford, Doug Ford would have been right if the truth had mattered, but since it doesn't, he is wrong, and that is a good point because what does this information really change for anybody, for Canadians or for Americans? Because when you think about it, now I think anybody that's really educated about tariffs knows that the consumer on the side of the border that's applying tariffs is the one that pays the tariff, right? So in some regard, this Reagan address is not providing new information to a lot of people. right? It's not providing new information. But does the truth of this really matter in terms of like, does it change anything in America right now? You'd argue probably not, because because what happened after this ad dropped, Trump and Fox News and all those guys there over there went and they started to shape the narrative in the way that is favorable to them. And that is exactly what you get with every piece of news, whether true, whether fake news or true stuff. Everything that reflects on the Trump administration negatively is regarded as fake news unless it's something they agree with. And so the truth, yeah, and here's how you should put this. I think you should put this in context. For the Democrats who maybe might agree with you, there is not a thing they can do to help you right now. And for the Republicans, most of them, even if they agree with you, are not able or willing to go up against the MAGA Republicans to stop them from imposing these tariffs. In fact, I think the only thing that will make the Americans step off the tariff policy is if they start to see negative consequences for everyday people in their economy and for their people, especially in those red states, right? If they start to see the real consequences in those areas, then they would be a bit more willing to step off this policy. But at the moment, the negatives have not compounded they've not sort of built up as high. My point is they're not there yet, right? Inflation is rising, but it's not quite the extent that would worry, at least not to, it wouldn't worry a person like Trump right now, where the inflation is, right? And he's convincing people that, okay, this is short-term pain. We're building all these factories, all these companies are leaving Canada, they're leaving abroad somewhere, and they're coming to this country, and you'll find jobs that will be created from this policy, right? That is what he is telling the people. So, Adoy, lady, okay, yeah. Adoy Fashion says, Doug Ford has maybe good intentions but terrible executions. Overall, he is wrong and it undermines Canada and shows how broken it is. That's a good point as well. So, that's a good point, a good place for us to talk about the whether Doug Ford's move here was good for Canada. Because, and I will tell you my own opinion, and I'll tell you my logic here, and you see if you agree with it. You don't have to obviously agree with what I think here. But I looked at this ad, and I know that Doug Ford has been chomping at the bit for a little, like, Doug Ford likes this very performative type of revenge, this type of, elbows up. He's very much an elbows up guy. Like, he wants to land gloves back. He wants to fight back, right? And he has been calling for Canada to fight back if we cannot get the Trump administration to play ball. And so this is Doug Ford trying to send a message. Now, do I think it was a sensible move? I don't think it was a good move. First of all, the first reason why I think this was a very dumb move. I shouldn't say very dumb, but I don't think it was a good move in the sense that, number one, I've never been a fan of the premiers going off on their own. I didn't like it when Danielle Smith did it, when she would like go to Washington all the time and she was trying to pull the strings in order to get stuff or even carve out for Alberta. I don't like it when the premiers go off on their own and do stuff like that. It undermines the core Canadian strategy. And now, what this has done is, as I told you, Doug Ford's move in putting this ad out. I think his plan was, okay, I'll put this out. It will reveal the truth. And as we discussed earlier, the truth doesn't really matter in modern day America. The truth does not matter. What matters is the narrative in America right now. That's what matters. And as far as the narrative is being controlled At least Trump focuses on the people that agree with him already, and he makes sure that the narrative is clear for those people. And as long as those people continue to agree with them, nothing is going to change. And so, if the truth doesn't matter, okay, the other point was Doug Ford was probably hoping that there would be some sort of internal rancor within the Republican Party because, as I said, there are many Republicans that are very loyal to that remember Ronald Reagan. They consider Ronald Reagan the best president ever, right? And so he was hoping for some sort of internal battle within the Republican Party where the Republicans, the Ronald Reagan Republicans, start to fight against the Trump Republicans, and hopefully that way, with the Republican Civil War, sort of, they can eventually get this tariff policy to go away. Again, you're assuming you're assuming that those people are actually willing to stand up to Donald Trump, and they're willing to stand for you when Donald Trump has convinced them that this is working for them, right? So clearly, this hasn't worked, right? Because Donald Trump has then announced afterwards that he is increasing tariffs on Canada by 10%. And also, now there are no negotiations going on because Donald Trump has effectively canceled the negotiations. And what will happen now? Donald Trump, because he knows he has all the cards, and you say I told you so, Carney is probably going to have to back down on something again, as he has done for so many times now. He backed down on the digital services tax, right? so, so you will find that McCartney is probably going to have to sweeten the pot in some way in order to get Donald Trump back to the table again, because Donald Trump knows he owns the table, right? I'm going to catch up on your comments. Lady Genuine says, Doug Ford is the Premier of Ontario. He is not the Foreign Trade Minister. He should not be making those kinds of statements. I agree with that, particularly about cutting off electricity to Americans. I don't think he should be making that. And this is the problem with Canada's system, so to speak. We don't function there's no cohesion within our system, and so you get people going off doing their own thing, and then you get a situation where the Carney team is trying to have this. They're obviously negotiating with a very difficult customer here, right? Now, I leave them to it. By whether they fail or they succeed, leave them to it. Do not get involved. And you know how this is gonna get worse now, because BC is talking about doing their own ad as well. And they're talking about how they're going to make ads targeting, the lumber industry, because obviously the lumber industry has been hit really hard over the last few years, not just under Trump, not just under this current Trump administration. The lumber industry has been hit very hard over the last few years. And BC is talking about doing their own version of an ad. And I'm like, guys, can someone just tell me? Can you guys just hold your horses or something? Like, it is not going to do anything. Your truth does not matter. It does not matter. It does not matter. And this reminds me of I don't know. So some of you might not really be like fans of anime or something like this. But I watched an anime a while ago where there was this really strong master. He was a sword master, essentially. And he was training a whole bunch of kids. These kids are really talented kids, right? Really talented kids. And he basically told all of them to join their hands together. This were like 6 kids or something, no, 7 kids, and told them they could all attack him at once, right? And they all came at him with everything they had, and then he just like did one move and they were all done. And then in the end, he told them, regardless of your skill, regardless of your power, there is at some point power trounces any skill that you can put in front of him, essentially. And it's sort of like, regardless of what the provinces, what any of these premiers do, Trump will do what Trump will do. You are not going to change his mind. So why are you wasting money? 70. Oh yeah, genuine says my daughter loves anime. Yeah, anime is great. Anime is great. Okay, so let's see what I've missed here. Let me catch up with your chat. In my opinion, Lady Genuine says, in my opinion, Ford making the ad takes the heat off Carney for his failures in making a deal with Trump. Maybe this was what they were discussing in Muskoka. Oh, that's a full on conspiracy there. Look, I I would hope that it wasn't that Doug Ford did not speak to Marconi. I hope that this came as a surprise to him. Because if Doug Ford did discuss this with Marconi and Marconi said, okay, fine, you could do it, then we're in deeper shit that we that we can ever imagine. The shit is much deeper than we can imagine because I can't see any reason why Marconi would think that is a good strategy for Doug Ford to put that ad out, knowing that, I mean, you just know what Donald Trump is going to do. The first stage is deny, deny, deny. The second stage is to retaliate. That is what Donald Trump does. And that is exactly what he has done. So, in that sense, Donald Trump has not surprised anybody. He has not surprised anybody. He has just done exactly what he does, right? So, I would hope, I want to believe that Doug Ford did not talk to Marconi about this. And the funny thing is that since the ad came out and we've seen the reaction from Donald Trump, McCartney apparently spoke to Doug Ford, and Doug Ford said he will pull the ad on Monday after it has been seen during the World Series. Right? So we are where we are, I guess. Let me catch up on your comments there. Okay, R says all these premiers doing their own thing. It shows no unity in Canada. Exactly, it shows no unity in Canada. Exactly. Daniel Smith of Alberta went off on her own. Now Doug Ford is doing the same. Why do we have Marconi then? I'm sure there are people in the chat that tell you we don't need Marconi. But to be fair, and maybe that's a good segue for us to talk about this budget that is coming. But I'll finish off your comments here. Lady Genuine says Donald Trump likes flattery. That's how you make a deal with Trump. And to be fair, that is exactly what McCartney has been doing. He has been, I mean, every time he goes there, he calls him a transformational president. And then he leaves out the fact that, well, what direction are you transforming the country to? Is it the negative or positive? He just says transformational. He just leaves that out there. Anyways, Breakfast says all skills are useless in the face of absolute power. Maybe you've seen that anime that I watched. I think that is the line I was trying to remember. All skills are useless in the face of absolute power. So it was in this particular anime, as I said, these kids were throwing all their skills at this guy, and he just did like one move, and they were done. And it was just like, well, doesn't matter what skills you are. I'm just levels, and that is what Trump is showing us here. That his ability to define the narrative is levels above any truth, above any facts, above anything. Right? That is what we're learning of Donald Trump. He just has an ability to make sure that the narrative is always what he wants it to say. Whether he's wrong or right doesn't matter. Anyways, so Lady Genuine says Marconi said he could play the ad for the two games, then had it. Oh, okay. You're saying Marconi said he could play the ad and then have it taken down after that. Yeah, I imagine that the way that conversation probably went down is that Marconi called him up and was like, "Hey, Doug, I don't know how to do the Marconi voice, but Doug Ford." whatever. And then he was like, "Oh, can you take down the ad?" And Doug Ford was like, "Ontario needs." I don't know how Doug Ford talks. Anyways, I'm very bad at impressions, but essentially, I imagine that Doug Ford, knowing that he has already spent the money, wanted to get his money's worth, and McCartney probably went, "Okay, fine." But you're right. That 75 million could have been put to good use. But I want to transition this away to, and let's talk about the budgets, guys. Let's talk about the budget. The budget is coming November 4th. It's coming November 4th. And there is a problem. If you guys watch the channel during the week, obviously I did a review of all the demands that all the parties have been making in order to support the budget. R says McCartney is absolutely regretting saying he is the best man to go against Donald Trump. I bet he is. I bet he is. I bet he is. I wouldn't say Doug Ford is a maverick, you know. I wouldn't say Doug Ford is a maverick. Doug Ford is is going to be performative. That is his thing, and it seems to work for him, right? I mean, the whole thing with Crown Royal, the drink company, the whiskey company, I guess. Is Crown Royal whiskey or rum? I don't even know. But anyways, Crown Royal moved production from Canada, and then Doug Ford did this whole performance at a press conference where he was dumping out some Crown Royal. I mean, that doesn't fix anything, guys. It does not. But you can trust Doug Ford to do the performance, to offer the performance. So the demand that the conservatives have tabled for McCartney to meet, they've said that McCartney should not exceed what Justin Trudeau committed to in terms of the deficit. Now, here's a question for you guys. How much do you think the deficit is going to be when the budget gets tabled? You guys get in the chat. Just give me a number, because I think right now everybody's playing this game of over under with McCartney's budget. Everybody's going. Is it gonna be over 100, over 100, over $100 billion in deficit, or is it gonna be under, certainly under $60 billion? What do you guys think? Obviously, you guys know what I think, because I put that in my video from the week. But I want to know from you guys, where do you think the deficit is going to land? Let me know in the chat. But obviously, I think the budgets were going to be somewhere around $82 billion, maybe slightly less. Maybe slightly, but by slightly less, I mean somewhere between 72 to $82 billion. That's where I think the deficit is going to land. To be honest, if McCartney is able to hit that, he hasn't. He would have done exactly what he said he would do in his. Okay, so R says I imagine you mean the deficit here, but she says the budget will be at least times three of Justin Trudeau's deficit. Now let's think. Justin Trudeau was expected the projected deficit for 25-26 under Justin Trudeau was $47 billion, if my memory serves, right? So what do you need to be three times that? Yeah, I don't think you'll reach three times that puts you around like 100 and close to 150K. So I think that's I don't think you're gonna get McCartney to present a deficit that's 150K. But maybe some other people agree with you. I think most people have said that the deficit is closer to double what Justin Trudeau what was projected for Justin Trudeau. That and double puts you around 100K. Sorry, $100 billion. I mean, um, so the question now, I think the bigger question is, okay. So Annoy Fashion says the deficit is probably high as ever, but don't worry, people only don't worry, people. Only the investment side will have a deficit. The operational side will have no deficit. I told people this last week. You're wrong. Even the operational side is going to have a deficit this year. In fact, the operational side of the budget will not be balanced until 2029. Until 2029. So, although McCartney said he was going to balance the operational side of the budget, well, it turns out it won't be balanced until 2029. So, so that I wouldn't hold my breath. Okay? But this investment side, obviously, we've discussed this. I've told you guys why this whole investment side and operational side bothers me so much. But I expect the deficit to be somewhere around $82 billion, somewhere between 72 and $82 billion. You guys can come back and give me a high five if I get it right. Anyways, for those of you who are new around here, this is the Wolf of Young Street podcast live, WOYS live as we like to call it. If you're new, just subscribe, drop a like on the video, so and involve your friends, invite your friends over. But I want to talk about whether Poilievre is ready for an election if we do go to an election. Because, I mean, based on what we see so far, I mean, we can expect that the conservatives are not going to support this budget because they've spelled it out very clearly. We will not support the budget if it shows a deficit above what was projected for Justin Trudeau. And we know Carney's getting nowhere near. Carney wishes he could get anywhere near Justin Trudeau's deficit. He's getting nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. So that is not going to work. Poilievre has also asked that McCartney remove the tax on food, as he likes to call it. So, like, try and remove the industrial carbon tax. He talks about like your food packaging tax, all those kinds of things. Now, these are all things I talked about in that video, right? So we know the conservatives are not going to support this budget. The Bloc Québécois as well have tabled some demands that I consider some of those demands I consider to be absolutely bonkers, but you know. But we know the Bloc Québécois is not supporting the budget either. And so far, the NDP has said they are not negotiating with the Carney liberals, whether behind closed doors or publicly. And so, but you know what? Personally, I expect that the NDP will eventually fall in line just because the NDP has no leader. The NDP has basically no leader, no funds. They're in the middle of a leadership race right now. Like, no, the NDP does not want an election. If the NDP goes to an election right now, there's a chance that they come back even worse than they are right now. And they have only what, 7 seats. There's a chance that the NDP, if they head to an election right now, could come back even worse than they are. But if we do go to an election, I want to talk about whether Pierre Poilievre is ready, and I'll show you guys something. There's something I want to show you guys here. I have been looking at the polls. I've been looking at the polls. Let's see. I want to pull up the polls here for you. The reason why the polls are important is this. Sometimes this takes time for me to find this. I want to pull up the polls. I'm going to go off to 338 Canada here, and I want to pull up what the polls are saying. Where is Pierre Poilievre relative to Mark Carney right now? Okay. Okay, so I'm on 338 Canada right now. It says that basically Marconi and Pierre Poilievre are neck and neck right now. That's what it says. And so that's why do you know why that is a worrying sign for Pierre Poilievre? That is a worrying sign because right now, I think that Marconi is probably in one of the worst positions that he can be heading into an election. I'll tell you what I mean. McCartney is defending a situation where he has not delivered on the core things that he promised on the election on the road to the election. He promised a trade deal with the United States. We've seen none. He promised that well, he also promised an elbows up approach that we've not seen, and he made some promises regarding the cost of living and all those things. Although he has taken some approaches to try and address those things, we don't. I mean, apart from maybe rent has been coming down. If in case you're not aware, at least where I am, I know rent has come down. Obviously, that helps affordability when rent prices come down. But in terms of like food prices, we haven't really seen a reduction in food prices. That is all around affordability as well. And you know, obviously, if you're in the market for cars right now, cars are hella expensive. Especially even used cars the used car market is absolutely crazy right now. And so, looking at all those factors, looking at what Makani is going through in terms of like what he has been able to deliver and what he has failed on or is not yet showing evidence of success on, I shouldn't say failed on, you then have to think about like if Pierre Poilievre is not far ahead of him or if he's not separating himself right now, then when? When does Pierre Poilievre finally separate himself? And that is my worry for Pierre Poilievre right now. He, despite the this evidence, or despite the situation where McCartney seems to be failing in some people's minds, it has not been enough to open a pathway to convince people that Poilievre is the one they want to vote for. And that is a worrying sign. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You guys get in the comments. Let me know if an election were to go on today, were to happen today. Do you think that Pierre Poilievre wins that election? Let's start there. Do you think that if an election happens today, Pierre Poilievre wins that election? What do you guys think? You guys are hella quiet all of a sudden. You guys wanted to talk about Dog 4? Is that what it was? Is that what it was? Okay. I'm trying to pull up the polling for you guys actually. But it's I'm having a little bit of trouble with that. But you guys tell me, if we go to an election, what do you think happens in an election? What do you think happens in an election if we go to an election right now? Because I think Levy says you're right. In my mind, McCartney has failed on all the core stuff with Donald Trump, and he failed to unite Canada. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's see if I can get this. Just take a little bit of time here. Okay, do you guys see this? You see this? Okay, I don't. Okay, it's not showing up for you guys just yet. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. So, as of right now, you see that the Liberals still have a 2 point lead in the polls. And when you go through most of the polls here, I know that there are lots of people that don't really like to look at the polls, but I think the polls are good to a point. They're good to just give you a little bit of insight. And I really use the polls a lot during the election time, and and as you know, I predicted the election pretty spot on. I was right. I predicted that the Liberals would win a minority, just observing what was going on at the time, right? And I'm looking at it now, and this is not a good sign for. This is not a good sign at all for Pierre Poilievre, because when you actually look at this, when you look at the polling right now, you'll see that since the election, Since the election, essentially we have not moved from where we were during the election. And so Poilievre is in this situation where the essentially the roadmap has not changed since the election, and that is the problem fundamentally that Poilievre is going to have right now, heading in if we were to head into an election. The picture has not changed. I don't think that McCartney is going to. If we go to an election, I don't think McCartney walks away with the majority, because I don't think Canadians are going to give the Liberals a majority right now. I don't think it will happen, right? So there is that. But at the same time, I don't know if I expect Pierre Poilievre to do any better than he did in the last election. I don't think that. I think, in fact, I'm going to predict it right now. If we go to an election, there's probably the Liberals are probably going to come back with a minority again. Nothing is going to change. It would have just been a waste of your time and mine. That's what I think is going to happen, right? Because I do not think I don't think that Pierre Poilievre wins a rematch right now, at least, because there are a few things need to continue to go wrong, and obviously none of us wishes that for Canada, right? We all want the country to turn around. For McCartney, hopefully you're not partisan in that way. We want McCartney to turn out to be a rip roaring success. That will make most people happy, I would say. Most people who are not married to the idea of a party, right? And so, um, with Pierre Poilievre, with how bad things seem right now, it worries me for the conservatives out there. It worries me that he is not higher in the polls. It worries me that he is not he hasn't seen that in his numbers. And ultimately I think they will see those numbers in the conservative side, and going into the budget presentation. They will see that, and that might influence whether they choose to bring down the government or not. It might surprise people that a lot of people haven't realized this, but so far the conservatives have actually been the ones to support the liberals the most in the House of Commons, in this session of the House of Commons. Like a lot of people assume that they've been opposing everything, and they really haven't. So it might surprise people that the conservatives are the ones who will actually push the liberals through this particular time around. But we'll have to see that. Although if action says PP might win or PP might win if the premiers keep sabotaging Marconi. Yes. um, However, I would if you if the you're saying if the premiers keep sabotaging Marconi, well, there's no bigger sabotage than what, in my mind, than what Doug Ford has just done. Like it sounded like they were getting close to a deal. Although, to be fair, there's been several false dawns in this journey, in this odyssey towards making a deal with the United States. But it sounded like they were getting closer to actually announcing something. In fact, there was a rumor that during this trip to the ASEAN summit, that there might be an announcement somewhere along the way. Unfortunately, everything is stopped now. Nothing is moving. There is no announcement coming. And so, I mean, Doug Ford has effectively, as far as the rumors I was hearing, Doug Ford has effectively sabotaged McCartney, to be honest. But again, this is not showing up in the numbers. This is not showing up in the numbers, and that is a worrying sign for Pierre Poilievre. If not now, when? Right? If things continue to get worse under McCartney, and we're talking about some of the measures, well, they're talking about investments and these nation building projects. Well, we still haven't really seen any of them come to fruition. We might not see them for a few years. They have been announced. They have been announced. Funding has been announced, but until we start to see these projects actually come online and actually provide jobs for Canadians, start to actually serve Canadians, it's hard to actually like say something has actually been done, because until you see the concrete signs, it just feels like another It's all up here, right? Pie in the sky. It's not really real until you actually see it serving Canadians, right? Uh, okay, so I think I'm all caught up with all your comments today. I'm all caught up with all your comments today. Okay, so what do you got? The last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I want to do a Halloween themed show. How about that? I want to do a Halloween themed video. I mean, for you guys. Now, I want you guys. We can call this a co-work session if you like. Pop an idea into the comments. I want to know which. Maybe I don't know. Make it a scary. Make it a make what is make it a scary. I don't know, political related video or whatever that you want me to make. The one with the most votes is I am going to make that video, and I'll obviously credit you. Oh, Braveheart says Mr. Wolf didn't read your comments. Which comment did I miss? Which one? Which one? Okay, so Braveheart says election should just cool it for now, and that's the impression I'm getting in the streets. I don't think that Canadians want an election right now. I know I've heard a lot of conservatives go, yes, let's go, but no, I don't think the vast majority of Canadians want an election right now. In fact, I'll ask you guys. I want you guys get in the comments. Let me know. Do you want an election right now, and why? Well, why do you want an election right now? Because I don't want an election right now. I mean, it's been 6 months since the last one. Let's wait till next year or something. I like middle of next year if things are not really moving in the direction we want. Yes, let's have an election then. But I don't want an election. I don't want an election right now. But yeah, so you guys tell me, do you want an election? But also, as I said, I want to do a Halloween themed scary kind of show, kind of video for you guys. So you guys get in the comments and tell me to give me an idea of a scary Halloween themed video I can make for you guys. I'd be curious to get some ideas from you guys. Okay. Also, I want to know what is your. Okay, we've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes left. Yeah. So please, if you could just get in the comments real quick before I close the room. But anyways, you guys, for those of you who are new who just joined, we have this show every Sunday. We try and have these discussions about several things going on in Canada. Several things that are okay. So Halloween theme. Someone says Nigerian voodoo theme. Now that's some real scare. Why would I talk about Nigerian voodoo? I imagine you're Nigerian. Okay. Why do you want to talk about Nigerian voodoo? Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting idea. Um, do you guys believe in magic? I guess because from what I hear about Nigerian voodoo, it's it's really scary shit. But I don't know enough about it to make comments. But do you guys believe in black magic? Do you believe in hexes and all that stuff? See, now we're talking about stuff that's gonna scare you. Ooh, ooh. Okay, so Lebi says, I mean the decoration, that were really scary. So you want me to get some Nigerian voodoo doll or whatever and use it as a backdrop for my videos? Why? You're trying to scar people. Okay, so I guess this is the chill part of the show. We're not talking about politics anymore. We're just gonna chill and talk about Nigerian voodoo decorations. Okay, give me some ideas. What kind of voodoo decorations are you talking about? And then, and it seems like you're Nigerian. Who else? If wherever you guys are from, you can tell me the story. You can tell me, your experience of magic or from your community. I'm actually interested in that. Tell me where you're from and what the experience of magic is in your community. What is the scary thing about your culture? I'd be curious to know about that actually. So I want to end on a Halloween theme kind of thing. Don't leave me hanging now, Libby's. You went and talked about voodoo decorations. Like what the hell? What the hell? Don't leave me hanging. You gotta give me some details here. What how do you guys celebrate Halloween though? For me, I think I'm not really much of a Halloween guy to be honest. I'm not really much of a Halloween guy because you know, so a lot of you might know I'm from Nigeria actually. I'm actually from Nigeria, but I don't have the same experience of Nigeria as the person talking about the voodoo decorations. But I grew up in Nigeria, and there's enough scary shit going on in that country that I've just never been a Halloween person because I'm like, you get enough scary shit happening on a day to day. I do not want to deal with all these crazy stuff. Braveheart says, politics has been really polarized right now, and that can be the theme because it is scary. What's so scary? I mean, polarization is that scary? I guess it's scary for you. It is the polarization in politics is unfortunate because it allows we just talked about Donald Trump being able to shape the narrative because and that only obtain that continues to happen because of the polarization within the American society where truth doesn't matter. They're so polarized that people will support Trump regardless of whether what he's saying is true or not, whether what he's saying is provably untrue or not. They will support him regardless. That is where polarization lands you. And obviously, I've expressed concern about where Canada is going in terms of polarization. I've said this several times. I would like for people to be able to, one of my videos, I had somebody say it was disrespectful to question what a politician said. I'm not going to tell you which particular politician, but you can guess. But they said it was disrespectful, and I said it's not disrespectful to ask questions. Like this is not a cult. This is not a cult. It's not disrespectful to say, okay, I don't agree with what you're saying. I might like you or like what you're saying at this particular time, but it is not disrespectful for me to disagree with what a person is saying, right? And it's scary that people get so fanatical about the politician that they love so much, and they're like, "Oh, this guy is beyond reproach." No, no, they are public servants. They are not beyond reproach, especially when they're not delivering the goods. Anyways, Braveheart says it's going down a bad path. There is division, Halloween theme, the broken north. The broken north. Mm. That is an interesting idea. That is an interesting idea. At the risk of sounding kumbaya, everybody get in a circle and dance a jig. I don't know. I don't know. But then okay, I don't see many ideas for a Halloween theme. But anyways, thanks, Braveheart, Libby's, uh, Adore Fashion, Lady Genuine. Thank you guys for contributing to the conversation. Pat as well. Thank you for contributing to the conversation today. And for those of you who are still shy, don't worry. Don't worry. Or maybe the topic today wasn't quite your speed. Don't worry. You can always pop in the comments what you would rather be talking about, and we can always open new lines of conversation. It helps make it a little bit more fun if you guys get involved, and these live shows are actually meant for you guys. They're meant for you guys to, if you have responses to some of the videos I made during the week, like this week I made a video questioning a story that Pierre Poilievre told. Obviously, I have nothing against Pierre Poilievre, guys. I have nothing against Pierre Poilievre. But I made a video questioning a story that Pierre Poilievre told, and people lost their minds. They lost their shit. Some people came after me for that. But, that happens. So you can always come to the live and tell me your opinion about that if that's something you want to talk about. The other thing that I spoke about this week was obviously we talked about the Reagan ad today and all that. So these live shows are designed for you guys to come in with your opinions on different topics. If you're interested in a particular topic, then we can do that as well. No fashion. We're not going to get into that because it's the end of the show today. Anyways, if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe and invite your friends over for these conversations. We have them every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Drop a like on the video. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.